So Claire from Qantas, here to talk to you about all things Qantas, that is where we are at the minute. So we'll run through Qantas updates, what our network looks like, and also review our onboard products. And there'll be time at the end for any questions that you may have, so please feel free to ask anything that you have been holding out for. So just to talk about kind of where we are and where we've been, we have been quiet for the past 2 years, though a lot has been going on in the background at Qantas, even though we might not have been flying internationally. November 2020, we celebrated our 100th birthday. It wasn't the celebration plans that we'd hoped for, and sorry there was no party invite, but it was a huge milestone in Qantas's aviation history. You may be aware that we have refurbished all our A380s, which are slowly coming back into the sky. This happened throughout 2019 and 20. All the cabins have been refurbished to different extents. So economy has been refurbished, premium economy and business class are now a brand new product, and they match the seating that we have on the 787. And our first class cabin has gone through a refurb. As well as refurbs, we have introduced a business class lounge on board the A380 as well. So as we continue into 2022, Qantas are in a strong position. Yes, we did stop our international flights at the end of March 2020, but we were able to keep Qantas Domestic, Qantas Freight and our Qantas Loyalty programme going, and they really supported the business. So we are in a really strong position today. And this has helped us be really innovative with our plans for the future. So we did announce that we will be flying Sydney to Rome, which will be routing via Perth, and that starts in June. Today you may have seen the announcements that we'll be flying from Sydney to Bangalore and Sydney to Seoul later on this year. We are also reinvesting in our domestic fleet over the next 10 years, and we will be continuing with our Project Sunrise, so direct flight, and we'll be looking at between Sydney and London, which will be super exciting. So we are still working towards Project Sunrise as well. And we do have our Fly Flexible policy, so just to kind of be aware of, I know customers are still looking for confidence in travel, still being impacted by COVID. So we'll talk about it shortly, but on our Qantas Agency Connect website, there is the Fly Flexible policy for those customers that are impacted by COVID and can no longer travel. So looking at our Qantas network, today we started flying internationally again in November last year, and today we do have 2 flights today out to Australia. So we have our QF2 service, which flies from London to Sydney, and our QF10 service that flies from London through to Melbourne. Both those routes currently are routing via Darwin, and both those flights are on the Dreamliner. Come the 20th of June, our network will revert to pre-COVID flying. So the QF2 will go on to the A380. So it's the first time that we'll have the A380 back in the sky on the UK skies. And we will revert back to our pre-COVID routing for the QF2. So that aircraft will fly from London to Singapore and then Singapore on to Sydney. As with last time, there will be a touchdown in Singapore for refuelling. Customers will get off their flight and take the hand luggage off the flight, and they'll be in Singapore airport for about 90 minutes whilst we refuel and clean the aircraft as well. And then customers will reboard the flight onto Sydney. Of course, Singapore is a great destination for a couple of days stopover, or if customers are going on elsewhere in Australia, then customers can connect onto a Qantas flight to Melbourne, Brisbane and Perth. On the 20th of June, we will also be restarting our direct service from London to Perth, and we're really excited to have this back in the network. It will still be the quickest way to reach Australia, 16 hours, 45 minutes flight time. That flight will land in Perth around midday. Again, there's about a 90-minute connection in Perth for customers that are then continuing on to Melbourne. Just to let you know, if you have got customers that are flying Perth to Melbourne looking at doing a stopover in Perth, they can use the QF10 service to continue on to Melbourne at a later date free of charge, so we can have a nice trip to Western Australia discover the sites there before flying over onto Melbourne on the QF10. The arrival time into Perth, as I mentioned, is around midday, so it's a great time once we've cleared customs immigration for accessing hotel rooms. For meeting friends and family, it's a great arrival time, or connecting onto other flights within Australia. Customers do clear immigration and customs in Perth before continuing on the domestic flight, so it makes it a really straightforward process when they reach the final destination, that they don't have to clear customs and immigration at that final destination. On the Qantas network, we do have our side trips to New Zealand and also to the southwest Pacific, Cook Islands, Rarotonga. They're all accessible for your customers as well. And don't forget the connections that we have in the UK. So you can use the British Airways services from a lot of UK regional airports to connect down to London, and then London onto a Qantas flight. So again, they will be through checked, or you have access to our partnership with Emirates to connect from those regional destinations through to Australia as well. If your customer's looking at travelling around Australia, we have the Qantas Explorer Pass. So these are the domestic sectors that are included on the Qantas International ticket. So these sectors can be added on at the time of booking, or they can be added on once the tickets have been issued for a small amendment fee. The fare levels are the same all year round, so we don't differentiate between high season and low season. We use Qantas network and also various routes with our sister carrier Jetstar as well, and they're the same fare levels all year round as well. Obviously, the benefit of having all those domestic routes on one ticket is much more beneficial for you and the customer. Plus, customers get 30 kilos baggage allowance, which matches the international economy. Whereas if you were to buy that separately, it's 23 kilos. And flying on Qantas domestic service, food and beverage are included, and we do now have a free high-speed Wi-Fi on our domestic services as well. There is a Qantas page, Qantas Pass page on the Qantas Agency Connect, which can give you more information about this pass and show you all the routings that are available. So I say it has been a while since we've welcomed your customers on board, and our crew are really excited to have your customers on board again. Travelling is a bit more complicated, and safety is still our number one priority. But I think that Aussie welcome will still reflect through on the service on board the flight. With Qantas Economy, it's a really comfortable service through to Australia. We have the Qantas Footnet, which I always talk about in these kind of presentations because they are the key for a really comfortable journey. So it's the netting underneath the chair in front, which allow the feet to be raised, but without adding on any extra pressure to the feet. As with flying on Qantas, the journey to Australia starts, or the experience of Australia starts from the moment you get on board the flight. So the food and beverage that we have on board, such as James Boag beer or Tim Tams or great Australian wine. So again, customers can really start to experience that Aussie culture as they get on board. Entertainment, we have a huge amount of entertainment on board, so whether it's catching up on box sets, catching up on favourite films, or just simply meditate, like watching the meditations that we have online, and the hours fly by on the service. Qantas Premium Economy has always been held in high regard. The product is an absolute in between economy and premium economy. So the extra space, the extra service that we have on board, it's a really popular cabin, and it's definitely worth kind of looking at if people want that extra comfort but don't have for the business class kind of price tag. Then please do look at premium economy. We have increased the number of seats on board the A380 now, so we have 60 seats, whereas before we had 48. So it is a significant increase in the number of seats on the A380. Increases such as like the baggage allowance, or customers like that extra, the glass of champagne before takeoff, or that personalised service being addressed individually by the crew. It just all makes that difference for the onboard experience. We have been reopening our flagship lounges in the UK and throughout the world as well. So the London flagship lounge reopened in December. It is a split level lounge. So on the ground floor, there's an open plan kitchen where you can see the chef preparing freshly made food. And there's also a gin bar on the ground floor which serves Australian and British gins as well. And then upstairs is a cocktail bar and lots of really comfortable seating options as well. So it's a really great space for customers to start the flight onto Australia. Don't forget, we also have the transit lounge in Perth. So if you've got customers that are connecting from the UK through to Melbourne, they have access to the transit lounge in Perth while they wait. This is for business class customers and frequent flyer card holders. Or for customers that are joining the flight in Perth, the QF9, they also have access to the transit lounge as well. And they really get to experience the wellness programme here. So the wellness studios where we have yoga classes, stretch classes. We also have you can do your own facials and lighting therapy as well. So again, a really great space before you join the flight. International economy, so now we have the same product on both the A380 and the Dreamliner as well. So it's a 1-2-1 seat configuration. Everyone's got aisle access. It's really about the service on board as well here. It's a really personalised service. The aperitivo service before the flight departs. Then customers can dine when they want with the restaurant in the sky, followed with sommelier expertise when serving the wine, a barista made flat white or a refreshing cup of herbal tea, all before customers put the famous Qantas pyjamas on and take a few hours sleep before the arrival into Australia. As I mentioned before, on board the A380, we have the refurbished lounge area. So it is an alternative area customers can go and just kind of stretch their legs and have a different scene and relax with other customers on board the flight. Qantas First, so it's really exciting to have first class back in the skies. This is only available on the A380. It is the unprecedented luxury it has always been. Everyone has their own private suites. There is fine dining on board, so customers can choose from a tasting menu or off an a la carte menu, and then relax into their suite with the turn down service and the luxurious Sheraton bedding, again for a number of hours sleep. So just to kind of let you know, we do have an agent's website, which is Qantas Agency Connect. It has a lot of information on there that's probably really beneficial for you to review. Details of policies, including name changes, schedule changes. Also has information about our Fly Flexible programme, which I mentioned before if customers are impacted by COVID. Qantas News is on there, information about COVID travel and product information. But for agents that are ticketing agents, there is the service where you can process bookings that have schedule changes, or if you need help with fare quotes when fares aren't quoted in the system. Or, for example, if you have a problem where a flight's been cancelled in error, if you get in touch with us within 24 hours of the flight being cancelled, we can look at having that reinstated. So it's a really great platform for you to go and just kind of gain more information and self-help really as well. Sustainability is a huge part of the Qantas journey, and we are leading the way in terms of reducing emissions and our waste. So we have a net zero carbon emission target for 2050, and a couple of weeks ago we just announced an interim target to help us achieve that that overall target. So that's looking at using sustainable aviation fuel, and we actually do have that programme on our London Australia route. So we reached an agreement with BP in December, and in January we started using sustainable aviation fuel as part of our on our aircraft from London to Australia. And we've also introduced that in the past month on the LA Australia routes. And we have a target of zero general waste refill by 2030. We've already removed 18 million plastic items. We're always looking at fuel efficiency and looking at improving that by 1.5% by 2030. And this is looking at what aircraft we're using. So, for example, the Dreamliner is much more fuel efficient, and how do we better flight plan using the aircraft that we have. And we continue to build on our offsetting programme, investing in Indigenous and Australian projects. And this is through our Future Planet programme that we have for our corporate customers. In our market at the minute, we do have an incentive. I'm sure, like everybody, we're just kind of really wanting to get back out to Australia to experience the amazing country that it is. So we do have an incentive on at the minute, through to the 30th of April. So book a Qantas ticket with a minimum of 2 Qantas international sectors. Tickets do need to be issued by the 31st of May. Email those details through to the email address on there, and then we will be announcing a winner at the start of June. So, you know, it's a great chance to get back on board Qantas, experience Qantas, and get back and experience Australia as well. More information, you have our local teams here. Qantas.com and Qantas Agency Connect has a lot of information on board, and our social media pages as well. So yeah, please do reach out if you've got any real you know, difficult queries that where the websites cannot help you. You know, we're always here to help you and try and make the Qantas booking process as smooth as possible.